it's Nicki here, and today I thought I would talk to you briefly about choosing a publisher. So if you're an author and you've decided self-publishing isn't for you, and I will do a future video on my thoughts on self-pubbed versus traditional, but for now let's assume you've decided to send your work to a small press. How do you decide which one? This can be a really complicated issue. There are huge numbers of small presses popping up all over the place these days with the rise of digital publishing. How do you find a good one? It's not an easy process. I mean, I myself have had 4 publishers close on me since 2011 when I started. So one of them closed fairly soon after I published a few works with them. Another closed a couple of years in, and then I've had 2 close in the last 9 months. That's always a heartbreaking process. Sometimes you have to fight to get your rights back, sometimes you don't get paid the money you're owed, and even when you've got your rights back, and even if everything goes smoothly in that regard, you've then got all these orphan stories. What do you do with them? Will another publisher take them? Are you left having to self-pub them? Do you just have to box them? So there are a few things that I can recommend in terms of how to go about finding a publisher. The first one is research. Look up the press, look up their history. How long have they been in business? Do they have a good reputation? In terms of the reputation, you can check on websites like Writer Beware, and also ask around in author groups on Facebook, Goodreads and the like. See if anyone's worked with them, what experience they've had, were they happy with the process, have they had any issues over payments and things like that. Look at things like their production values, check out some of their books. Do they have good cover design? If you read one of their books, do they look well formatted and well presented? You can also, of course, at this point, start checking out some of their authors, who's on their books, who writes for them. If there's author names there you recognise, people you respect, whose works you know, then that's an added boost, and maybe get in touch with those people and on a one-to-one basis and ask their opinions. Another thing you might want to look at is to ask if the publisher has a sample contract you can see, so that you can tell what rights they're going to be asking for, what terms they're offering. Most are fairly standard across the industry, but you just want to make sure that you're getting a decent deal and that you're not signing away a whole lot of rights that the publisher doesn't need. And that you're happy with things like the royalty rates, frequency of royalty payments and things like that. Most publishers, if they've got a good reputation and are above board, they should be willing to talk to you about these things. They should be willing to share samples, tell you a bit about the process of working with them. But I mean, a word of mouth from other authors is a good place to start. Obviously, if a publisher's been in business for 10 years versus one that's been in business for 1, you can maybe feel a little bit more confident with the former. However, honestly, in these days, nothing's set in stone. You never know what the future's going to bring. A publisher may be in really good financial situation one year and then something happens and things go downhill. You can't know 100% that there's never going to be a problem, but you can look at these things like their reputation, their longevity, their production values, and all these things are going to help you make an informed decision, and then you just have to make a choice and go ahead and hope for the best. It's not easy unless you're going to one of the the really big 5 or 6 publishers that with small presses you just have to work on those 3 things. So longevity, reputation and production values, and that is the best advice I can give you, and word of mouth is absolutely the best way to hear about all 3 of those aspects. And have a look for yourself. When you contact them, how do you feel about them? They should be swift to answer you, they should be polite, they should be willing to share information if you ask for things like their terms. A sort of open approach from them is also a really good sign.